Good evening once again, San Jose Unified parents, families. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name once again is Rigo Palacios, manager for the Office of Family Engagement here with San Jose Unified School District, and I am pleased to introduce and welcome Study Smart Tutors, who is presenting the first of a two-part series specifically for parents to provide a little bit more information for families based again on feedback that we collect at the end of every school year. There was a high demand for parents requesting information on how else support to support their students and their children from home, and what are the different ways that they can work together with their student, with the district, and perhaps with other families and other community resources to support students. So we have partnered with Study Smart Tutors, and I'd like to introduce Sergio Galvez, who will be presenting to us this evening. Just before we do begin, I want to let everyone know that if at any point during the presentation you experience any audio or video issues, they usually resolve themselves within 30 seconds to a minute. If that doesn't happen, please go ahead and log out, log back in. That usually takes care of the problem. So with that, I'm going to hand it off over to Sergio. Thank you, Sergio, for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Rigo, and good night, good evening, everyone. I'm actually not back home today. I'm in Kansas City. I'm attending a leadership institute and also supporting my colleagues over at Study Smart Tutors with this session, but it is a pleasure to be with you all this evening. I am a proud first generation college graduate. I actually graduated from a TRIO Upward Bound program many, many years ago and am a product of support programs that are available through the partnerships that it sounds like you have through the district office here in San Jose. And so it's a pleasure to be here with you all and kind of be a part of that mission as someone who understands the importance of this type of work. So as Rigo mentioned, I'm here with you all for a couple of hours today. We're going to do a session in English, and we're going to repeat the same session in Spanish. And the topic for this evening is family connections. So we're going to do a very brief introduction into crucial conversations and the various aspects and the challenges that come with that. And also, hopefully, how to build a network, not just within your current existing networks that you have on a very social level with your friends and families, but also more so than anything, a network that puts you in a position to better support your students and be a part of other extended communities. Okay, so I want to first start off this session by saying that I approach this topic with the utmost respect. Some of the conversations that I'm going to be having involve kind of like how to speak to your child, and coming from a family. Coming from a Mexican American family, I can envision my dad sitting through one of these and saying like, well, who's this person telling me how to talk to my children, right? So I do want to make sure that I'm upfront, that I approach this topic with the utmost respect and humility to the fact that, this is meant to be a resource and something that could hopefully benefit you all moving forward. So that said, our mission here at Study Smart Tutors is to collaborate with partners that promote educational equity, access, and success. And we do this by providing a range of tools to both students, families, and really even educators. We do everything from family workshops to student-specific workshops, and then we'll even do some team trainings throughout the year. So today's community agreements, come as you are. Every topic that we discuss is an invitation for dialogue and conversation. So if at any point I go over something that you want further clarity on, or you have a question on, please feel free to either I don't know if you have the capacity to speak in this webinar as participants, but maybe I'm trying to familiarize myself with this platform. There does appear to be a chat. So Rigo, don't know if you're going to be sitting through this presentation, but I'll be engaged in the presentation. If things come up in the chat that I'm not that I'm missing, please definitely let me know. All right. So today's resources, and I'm going to leave this up here for a quick second. These are the materials for today's presentation. So everything from do's and do nots and to do's, and some of the topics that we're going to be discussed are also summarized in some of the handouts that you can find here in this link. So do yourself a quick favor, take a quick picture of it. I'll leave it up for a few more seconds, and then we'll get started. So the session agenda, we're going to talk about specifically kind of like family to family support, and we will briefly touch crucial conversations, which in itself could probably be its own workshop, but we're going to brush the surface of what crucial conversations are in a family setting and how those can lead to a better communication and better relationship and more trusting exchanges with your family members, with your scholars, and at the same time we'll go into tricks of the trade on the importance of networking and really some tips on how to expand the network that you might already have. All right. So some of the areas that we're going to be addressing here, we're going to be focusing a lot on communication. So a lot of this is interpersonal, right? So the session and the topics that I'm going to be covering tonight really are along the lines of empathy and compassion, strong communication, and also listening, which in itself is an enormously underrated skill. And many times us as adults, and I say this with 3 children of my own, many times these types of this dynamic of these 3 interpersonal skills is sometimes harder to execute when it's your kids. Like I find it very easy to communicate and to empathize and be compassionate with other people's children because it's what I do for a living. And sometimes it's harder to actually put this into practice with my own children. So I understand the challenges that come with it. And again, it goes to address that humility and that humility that I mentioned at the start of the session. All right. So in terms of the family unit and the family support, from the first moments of our life, the first people that we depend on as children, right? And I'm putting myself in this role, are our parents. They are our first. They are the first faces we see in most cases when everything is in the right place. They are the first people that we depend on. They are our first providers, and it is our first opportunity to build relationships. So we as parents are our children's first mentors, their first teachers, and their first role models, right? So it is through our vision that they see the world. So they will see the world the way we see it in the beginning until they begin to develop their own identities. And it's something that is very foundational, and it's where everything starts, right? So in terms of the family to family support, having that family to family support allows for people to come together. It allows for humans to come together in an environment that allows for that mutual shared support, that mutual shared positive impact. It is the first time that we experience, as I mentioned earlier, the compassion, and it reinforces us to understand situations. It is very easy to empathize with our children, because even though it may have happened a long time ago, we too were children at one point, right? And so we can definitely, through the recollection of our experiences, use those stories or use those anecdotes to kind of help us navigate situations with our own kids. And being able to share your own experiences, as I mentioned, is definitely one of the biggest benefits of having that family to family support. It's where we initially begin to solve problems effectively through our communication. We are making sure that we take care of ourselves and our stress, and sometimes we are there for our children, to making sure that we're there supporting our kids' endeavors, their academics, their development, everything, and finding and using local supports and services. And it's how we handle crises. When we have a good family nucleus, a lot of these things are allowed to flourish. and it puts us in a good place where we can be there for one another as a family. So family to family support, it has a lot of benefits, right? But mainly the bigger ones are emotional support. When that family nucleus is there, it's present, it's intentional. um it makes us, not just the parents, but it makes the children feel better, right? When we're able to share common experiences, whether it's a family trip or whether it's a weekly family tradition that we might have, we share moments together that make us um, reinforce those family ties and those benefits, right? So making sure that you're always emotionally validating your scholars, your sons, your daughters, reminding them how much you care for them, how much you love them, how much you appreciate them, how proud you are. um, Reminding them that when they're doing something right, and validating it in that moment is incredibly important for a child's development. Same thing goes for esteem support. Making it makes us feel good about ourselves when we validate our children doing something well, right? So when we tell them something as simple as, "You are stronger than you think," right? "I know that you can do it. I believe in you." um, Thanking them for helping you with dinner, thanking them for doing the dishes, just making sure that you have that support, that self-esteem support, and that emotional support. These are all benefits in a child's upbringing and a child's development, and it all leads to a really healthy um, environment where trust is created. And the reason why we're going to need trust is because you're going to need your child, your son, your daughter, to trust you when we start going into those crucial conversations. As they begin to get older, as they begin to, flourish into the human that they're going to be, they're going to have their challenges. They're going to have their own perspectives of the world, of how they see the world, right? So um, when you build a nurturing, trusting, supportive, um, that assured that assured support for your child, it makes difficult conversations a bit easier. And that's kind of what I'm trying to allude here, right? So family to family support, additional benefits, network support. You When you're a family and you have that those expectations, that sense of belonging is really important with families, right? It's a place where you should feel accepted for whoever it is that you are, no matter what you bring to the table. It's home, it's your people. Um, and you can also find those types of feelings, like that network support. Your children also find it in different areas, right? And even as adults, we find it many times in our extended family, in at the organizations that we volunteer at, our local, Boys and Girls Club, or whatever it is that we're associated with, at the church. Having that support is incredibly important. Informational support, how to do things that maybe were done by others in another family setting. So we learn by observing other people's support system, how they do things for one another, right? And so learning to implement, however, that informational support, that those other examples that we see, and learning how to apply them in our own family, um, is incredibly important. And that could lead towards, being better parents, by establishing just kind of like expectations at home, right? Establishing rules, establishing chores and responsibilities, consequences when the rules are broken, and also establishing a sense of reward. In terms of tangible support, yeah, that comes with family, right? Like we raise our children, we're responsible for our children financially. So um, when I mean, I didn't get any care packages when I was in college, right? Because I came from a low income family. But if you have that capacity, if you have that ability, definitely make sure that send you, when your kids leave the house and they go off to school, if you're able to send them care packages, that's something that you want to definitely look into. Also, if you don't have, if you want something that's closer, or if you want to perhaps work on extending that network support, donating your time, or donating items to places like food bank, making a meal for someone, something as easy, volunteering at the local mission, on Thanksgiving, all those types of things help build that support. All right. So crucial conversations, and not really sure why there are two different slides there, but the crucial conversations, there are three things that I want to make sure that we walk away from this particular topic. Is that crucial conversations typically will have three major components. They always involve high stakes, where something is on the line, something is of incredible importance. The consequences of the conversations can be mid to significantly serious, right? And so crucial conversations will always have they will always have high stakes in question. They are deeply charged with emotion. They can become emotional conversations, and so that's another thing that we need to make sure that we keep in mind. Right, crucial conversations aren't necessarily easy. So perspectives and opinions are always different, and that's one of the main reasons why they won't be as simple as an everyday conversation. So high stakes, they are emotionally charged, emotions are running high, and there is a difference of opinion or differing perspectives. So it's going to involve some type of compromise. It's going to involve some type of negotiation. It's going to involve tactfulness. It's going to involve compassion. But it is something that, believe it or not, professionals will sometimes avoid crucial conversations when they are responsible for supervising staff and things of that nature, right? A good leader will engage in crucial conversations and will do it right. It's the same thing with parenthood. And so that's exactly why it's so important to build that trust, that nurturing, genuine trust with our children from the time they're young, so that when we're in a place where we have to have these difficult conversations, it's not it's not something that we're going to be too scared to have, right? Because if we avoid these crucial conversations, we're going to have bigger problems down the road, and it could evolve into a bigger problem, if that makes any sense. Are there any questions at this point with regards to crucial conversations and their role in family support and family connections? I don't see anything in the chat, so I will keep trucking along. All right, but what to do? Let's go over some to-dos in terms of what to do when you have to have a crucial conversation with your child. Again, remember, stakes are high. There's going to be a difference of opinion, and emotions are running high. It's an emotionally charged conversation. So the first thing that you need to do is to pause for a moment and to calm down. This is you, the parent. Okay, when there's an issue, it is usually very likely, and the research shows that our children will mirror our emotions. So if we engage right off the bat in a way that is confrontational, in a way that is defensive, in a way that is loud, our children are going to react to that emotion, right? So take a moment to pause, to calm down, to even assess the situation a little bit before you actually engage with your scholar. Move to eye level, right? And this could mean a variety of different things. If it's a toddler, if it's a elementary school child, that probably means that as the adult, as a grown-up, we're gonna have to either get on our knees or sit in a place where you're at eye level with that person. It evens out the situation. It removes that intimidation factor that might exist. And again, if you are able to build those nurturing connections from the beginning, this might not be an issue, but it gives your students, it gives your children an opportunity to see that you are meeting them where they are, and it becomes a safer space to actually move to eye level. Be direct, and by being direct, it's kind of like, don't beat around the bush. Learn to use as minimal words as possible. So you're talking to a baby. Think about when the way parents nowadays, speak to their child. It's like it's typically 1 or 2 word sentences. It's very direct and to the point, right? It's like, come with me, follow me, listen, right? And you begin to be very direct with the conversation. Same thing for same thing for middle school children, same thing for high school scholars. Be direct, get to the point. Sometimes removing the fluff out of the conversation and the equation makes for a more fluid, more easily had conversation. Start with the heart, right? At the end of the day, our children are our prized possession. They are the most important thing that we create, and they are our life. They are our heart outside of our body, right? So start with that in mind. Always make sure that they understand. And I, I practice this with my children. They're a bit older now. My youngest is actually 20, so they're hardly children anymore. But I still feel like I have to approach them with like, hey, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to mention something to you, and I need you to understand that I'm saying this from a place of love, right? Like now that my kids are older, it's like, hey, I'm going to say something to you, and I'm going to say it from a place of love. This is something that has been bothering me, but I your safety is what's most important here. um so always setting up the stage of the conversation from a place of your safety, your well-being is what's most important to me as we begin to have this conversation, right? So start from the heart, and articulate a mutual purpose. What I mean by that is, let's just say that your daughter is upset because um they want to go play with they want to go visit a friend after dinner, and they haven't finished their homework, right? This is a very simple example, but I think it's an example that plays itself out in households many times throughout our state and this country. But you can negotiate. It's like, hey, yeah, if you want to go visit your friend, is your homework done? No, it's not done. Okay, well, check this out. Like, I'm gonna make dinner. While I make dinner, I need you to finish that homework, right? And make sure that you can either eat now. You can eat whatever is in the fridge now, and do your homework later. But you're not gonna go visit your friend until both dinner's eaten and the homework is done. So articulating a mutual purpose. You can talk about how that friendship is important to you as well. It's like, hey, I understand how good your friend is for your emotional well-being. I see how well you are. I see how great you are together. I see how she makes you a better student in school, right? Like whatever it is that you want to make sure that you are vocalized, but making sure that you articulate a mutual purpose for the communication. Not always easy when when they want something a certain way. So learning to set those parameters and setting those guidelines and those standards is incredibly important. All right. Show mutual respect. I think that's common sense in terms of what can you do as a parent, showing the mutual respect. Yeah, yes, you are the adult, and yes, you are the parent. But at the end of the day, they are just little human. There are little adults that are trying to find their way through this journey that we call life, and so making sure that they feel validated throughout the process is also incredibly important. Offer a contrasting view, right? So instead of telling them no, going back to the friend example, right? I think that's a good example of a contrasting view. Rather than starting off by like, no, you're not going to go because your homework's not done. Starting off by like, listen, I get it. She's close to you. You've known her for a long time. This family loves her, but your homework is more important. She would actually like for you to finish your homework, right? Even though it might not be necessarily the truth. But I think if you validate, like your friend would want you to be a good student as well, right? Your friend wants what's best for you. And that's why it's important for you to make sure that you finish your homework before we actually let you go. That's a good example of actually offering a contrasting view to a problem, to a solution. It's a high stake conversation at that point. Always return to safety. Worst case scenario, um, if you see that your child is becoming defensive, they are getting stressed out, the anxiety is there, they're getting a little bit louder, always return to safety, right? And always remind them why you're having that conversation to begin with. This is a good place to actually, when we're parents, to share an example of like, hey, this was hard for me too when I was growing up. Okay, at the end of the day, my parents only wanted what was best for me, and that's exactly what I want to offer you in this return. It's always about their well-being, their best interest. Always return to that, and remind them that you're not just mom or dad or stepmom or stepdad, and it's your rules, right? You've already shown them that mutual respect. And at the end of the day, this conversation, though it can get a bit difficult to have, all of this is being had because you care for them, because you care for their well-being, right? And honestly, this takes practice. If you are someone who has young children who are just now developing their own personalities and their own identities, start having these mini crucial conversations, whether it's a not so serious scenario that still kind of requires you to establish a process, establish boundaries, establish the fact that you're having this conversation because it's beneficial to them, because it's beneficial to the family, because it's a safe practice for them. Like, this is something that you're going to get better as your children get older, as they mature as well. They're more likely to be more receptive to these types of conversations. Are there any questions through this part of the presentation? I don't see any in the chat. All right, we can keep going. All right, so this is a kind of like a scripted conversation of how to handle an elementary school student presentation, right? So this is, I want to kind of set the stage. This appears to be like the end of a scripted conversation. I'll give you a few seconds to kind of go over the gist of it. As you can see, it is a parent-child conversation. They're talking about a little bit of a stressful situation with multiple classes. You see the back and forth. So you see the parent is kind of setting the foundation for asking questions. What's making it so hard? Are there specific classes? Trying to identify an actual cause for whatever the anxiety is, right? And offering help, offering support. Is there something that I, as your parent, can do? And of course, every child is going to respond a bit different. Again, in this scenario, this child is very reasonable and very articulate about what the problem is. But something like that is the good practice to have. If you ever see your child coming in and they look stressed, or they tell you, I don't want to go to school. I don't like school. I don't like math. All of those are cues to potentially initiate these types of conversations, getting deep down into, hey, what's going on, right? Like, is there anything that I can do to make the situation better? Like, is it school? Is it math? Is there anything that I can help you? Can I help you with your homework? Like, all those are opportunities for you to actually practice having these conversations. And now with elementary students, again, the simpler the language, the better, right? Using short, clear sentences. We already talked about the getting on their level, which is, kind of being at eye contact, using a calm tone. Always important to validate their feelings, right? Like, understanding that they're upset, they're stressed, making a note of that, but always kind of cueing to, I'm here to help. And again, always reminding them, your feelings, your well-being is what's most important to me as the parent. So that's a good place to kind of like start practicing. There's also an example about a middle school child. It's a little bit different, right? So with middle school children, their personality is a bit more developed, so they tend to be a bit more specific with regards to the things that are bothering them, right? But then again, they tend to be more specific, but at the same time, it's a bit more convoluted. So in this example, it looks like it's a parent coming home from work, and it looks like their child is doing distance learning at home. So exchanges, was it, it wasn't good. Was it good? The child seems to think it wasn't. Parent offers if there's anything that they can do to help, and they have this dialogue. It's so much work, so it looks like it's a workload thing. um and the parent offers, right, like, is it a specific class? Is it several classes, or is it something else? And if the child doesn't know, this is a good place for you to engage in those questions. um Validating, again, I see that you're struggling, I see that this is stressing you out. um but it's a good way to actually, what can we do a little bit differently? um Validating, it's like you can be such a good student when you set your mind to it, right? So always making sure that they see that they can do things a bit, they can do things really well. So as I mentioned, expect a bit more pushback, allow space for the opinions of your child. If they say that math is hard, yeah, validate it, and maybe math was hard for you as a parent too. You can perhaps share that. um and as the adult in the conversation, maybe you did something throughout the years that helped you either get better at it, whether it was going and asking your teacher during lunch for help, or whatever it was that you did. um, Setting those boundaries, like I talked about, like you can do your homework before or after dinner, but it needs to get finished, right? Teaching problem solving instead of giving them all the answers, that helps the students start finding their independence and finding their own identity, right? And if there are any social pressures um, that we know they experience in school, like, acknowledging those social pressures, and asking them if they want to openly discuss those types of things with a high school age child. The conversation at this point, it can be a bit more structured, it can be a bit more sophisticated, and they can be specific about the things that are bothering them, right? And usually by this time, in some cases, high school students have more responsibilities. So whether that's uh, they have extracurriculars, maybe they participate in clubs at school. Nowadays, students are expected to be a part of so much, as a part of the college application process, that you've got kids taking honors classes and AP classes, already stretching themselves academically. You've got kids who are told that they need to be in clubs and that they volunteer their time, and many times it's not just about being a part of the club, but being an officer in the club, being a vice president, a treasurer, having a leadership role that you can actually put down in your college application. And if they are, possibly from a low income, household, maybe they need to help their parents with their senior year prom expenditures. Maybe they want to go to homecoming but can't, mom and dad can't afford the ticket, so they got to work to actually be able to do some of these things. So we do live in a time when kids take on a lot, right? And it creates for really an environment where these crucial conversations with our children could happen a lot if we really are engaged with it. So making sure that you are able to kind of troubleshoot with them. um, with with um, with high schoolers, it's a bit different. I know it says middle schoolers, but please ignore that. You definitely got to treat them with respect as emerging adults, right? Because they are. I mean, even though I'm not sure that an 18-year-old I know they're considered an adult on paper, but I remember when I was 18, gosh, I had so much to learn still, right? So um, for them, it's important to use open-ended questions like, what do you think you would do to help reduce your stress, right? Kind of putting it on them as well, being there to collaborate on solutions, providing suggestions, maybe helping them, implementing additional rules for their study schedules to make sure that they don't, lose sight of what's important and the things that they have to do, but definitely emphasizing trust and independence and accountability. So you do that by creating that family connection early in life, to the point where they trust you. They trust that you have their best interest in mind. So when you give them, when you emphasize the fact that trust and that independence and that accountability is theirs to benefit from, it can be very instrumental in that relationship. All right, we're going to move over into what is networking. But before I do that, are there any questions on regarding the topic of family connections and conversations, crucial conversations with our children? Okay, let's move on to networking. So, networking is meeting and forming contacts with other people. It's basically making friends with complete strangers. Some of us are really good at it, others struggle with it. A lot of us that are, there are some that are introverts. They sometimes struggle with networking, but believe it or not, networking is really really important nowadays. It's important in our lives as adults. It's important for our students, right? Our students need to learn the value of networking early in life. When they're in high school, they need to start building those meaningful connections with their counselors, with their teachers, with gosh, if they live near a college campus, for example, y'all are in San Jose, so you've got a few colleges there. Not saying that students go and frequent those areas, but maybe going and making an intentional visit to introduce themselves. It's like, hey, I'm a senior at so and so high school, and I really want to come to the school. So starting to build that connection, that meaningful connection, is going to benefit them tremendously. As parents, as adults, this is a great way to actually form relationships with other people that are doing similar things as you are, that are having similar conversations with their children, that are dealing with a lot of the same situations and a lot of the same issues with their children, right? So networking is important for everybody, for your students, for your scholars, and for you as adults. So, why is it important? Because having a well-established network is, as I mentioned earlier, has become a part of our lives, right? It's the easiest way to expand your acquaintance base, your friendship space, right? And these are, you can start your network by just building on the relationships that you already have. So your family, all if you come from a multicultural background or a Mexican American background like mine, our extended family is massive, right? So just our own family can be a network. We have we have every type of adult in our family. I feel like sometimes, but it starts really with your family. Then it moves on to your friends, right? Your outer circle. In the case of your students, their classmates, they are their immediate network on a daily basis. And then their school, their grade, right? Colleagues, in the case of you as a working adult, your work colleagues, the people that you work with, all these people are already a part of your network, and whether you utilize them a lot or not is really up to you, right? But you already have a network, so it's important to learn to build and utilize it for your best interest. So when you're a parent, where do you network, right? Start with your neighborhood, at your children's schools. So events, volunteer jobs, PTA meetings. If you're not already on the PTA or being a part of the PTA, that's a great place to meet other parents where they're probably having a lot of the same conversations with their children as you're having with yours. They're probably having similar challenges with their children as you're having with yours. So it's a good place for you to get together with other adults to actually have conversations about parenting and how things are working for them and how to approach different things. Um, your kids' sporting events, right? Think about the coaches that are on their team. If it's not you personally coaching them, think about the other parents. Uh, from what I recall, my kids all did sports, right? And it's like when you commit to AYSO, you like commit to AYSO. You have to show up to prep the field. You have to show up, you have to bring oranges for halftime. And this all takes communication. This is already something that you're doing with other grown-ups. And it's a good place to build connections. In terms of community or volunteer events, when you do those volunteer events, like I mentioned earlier, maybe you have time to, as a family, go to the local shelter, go to the mission to help individuals. But that's where you're more than likely going to be surrounded by people who think like you, who are involved in similar community projects. For the most part, when we volunteer for things, we volunteer for things that we're passionate about, right? So by going to these things, you're going to be in close communication with other people who, like you, are passionate about that. So you already have that in common. In terms of waiting in line, like there's no additional time or scheduling required when you're building your community right off the bat. And of course, when all else fails, just remember that humans are socially cooperative individuals. We are happier when we maintain deep social relationships with one another. So always think about that at the end of the day. For those of you who are introverts and have a hard time, we all want to feel connected with other human beings, and we want to have things in common. So networking tips, as I mentioned, start close to home, start in your neighborhood, start in your community, start at work, start at the PTA school meetings. Meet people face to face. We live in a place where everything is either, scrolling or sending messages. It's important to meet people face to face. Have coffee with adults in your in your community. Build those connections and make it a habit. Okay. And I say make it a habit because networking is a skill. It is a skill. It's not everybody is great at it. Not everybody is comfortable with it. But if you make it a habit and if you practice it, you're primed to get better at it and more comfortable in it. Keep expanding your network, right? So think about meeting new individuals. And I tell this to my students all the time, like your network should be getting larger and larger. You could easily, if you tried, you could easily meet anywhere between 50 to 100 new people when you get to college, like in 1 year, easily, right? So same thing goes for you all as adults. Keep expanding that network. If you don't ask, you're not going to get it, right? So asking people, it's like, hey, can you help me with I've got a situation with my son, with my daughter. I know that they're on the same team. Are you finding that they struggle with homework? Are you finding that the practice schedule is not working out for them? Like, you can have these common conversations with other adults in your community. Definitely show gratitude whenever someone does something for you. When someone from your network does something for you or for somebody in your family, definitely show gratitude. And be helpful. What I mean by that is don't always look for your network to bail you out of something or help you with something. Also, sometimes be sure that you're in a place where you can actually give back to someone. All right. That's very important, because if you're the guy that's always asking for favors but never really does anything for people, after a while it catches up with you, right? So show gratitude and ask for help, but also be helpful when you have time, and definitely keep an open mind. These are all good topics, good tips for having a strong networking plan. Elementary school networking. For those of you that have elementary age children, I think many of us, have to pick up and drop off our students, right? That is a good place. PTA meetings, library story times. These are all places where typically adults have to volunteer. So you have to come in contact with people. Establish play dates or study buddies with your children's friends, right? Or like maybe your children will tell you, I want a play date or I want a study buddy. That is an opportunity for you to meet adults that have children the same age as yours that can be in a position where you can help one another. Seek family mentors. Sometimes older parents who have done this before, who have older children, sometimes they're a good network for you to have. It's always important to have someone who's kind of done it before, right? Um, and it's good practice. For middle school, definitely join parent groups for extracurricular activities. Again, a lot of the times these schools need parent volunteers to drive a lot of this work. So the best you can do is to use their online platforms, stay informed, use whatever group chats, whether it's student view, whatever platform your children's school is using. Use that to stay active in the conversation. Encourage your students to peer study, to build groups, to build network, to build community, because that puts you in a position where you have to also coordinate with those parents. And again, it's a good practice for you to build your parent network. Connect through career events when you get to the high school age. College prep workshops. A lot of you are going to have to go to financial aid workshops. You're going to have to go to financial literacy workshops for parents. You're going to go learn about what the SATs and ACTs are all about. You're going to want to learn to hopefully, how can my son or daughter maximize their scholarships when they get to college, right? So all of these opportunities um, are good opportunities for you to actually continue to build your network. And at the end of the day, always encourage your students to build meaningful relationships with their teachers, with their counselors. As I mentioned earlier, that becomes very important when you get to college, especially when you're applying to colleges. When your sons and daughters have to ask a teacher or a counselor for a letter of recommendation, you want that teacher or that counselor to have a sense of comfort and to know that they can actually write a good letter for your child, right? They need to know your child at least a little bit. So encourage them to make sure that they build those connections. So, what are the benefits of creating a parent network? You can use the network as a support group. Um, I think I already kind of alluded to this, but when you have friends, when you become friends with with the parents of your children's friends, with your children's friends, when you become kind of like a co-team of adults for that school, for that community, you get to see what it's like to have a support group without necessarily paying for one, right? So it's stressful. Raising children is stressful. It can be isolating. So knowing that you can vent and share feelings, ask for best practices, ask for scenarios, um, it can be very, very comforting and reaffirming if you are able to have conversations with parents who are going through the same thing. That is really the end of the information. I know I went through this pretty quickly, but we do only have about an hour, and I did want to save time for questions. Should there be any questions from the group? Um, I see that there are no questions. Good info. Uh, I hope that you were able to take some notes. Again, believe me, as I mentioned, I approach this topic with the utmost respect, right? Because, like I said earlier, my dad would be like, "Who's this guy telling me how I should speak to my kids?" It's important to definitely have an open mind when it comes to this type of stuff, and it's okay to see what other people are doing, because at the end of the day, this thing called parenthood, you're not alone. People all over your community, your network, your family, your own family, they're going through very similar struggles. And I know that culturally, many times we try to keep our dirty laundry in house, right? Um, I'm not saying go spill all your dirty laundry, but at the same time, I'm saying use the family that we have, use your resources, use your network. And remember, your network starts at home, it starts in your community with family, with extended family. Have these conversations because parenting is stressful. And the better prepared you are, the more practice you get, the easier this gets. I promise you that. My kids are in their 20s now. Um, and it's something that I had to learn along the way. But that's really all I have, Rigo. If there are no questions, I know that we have a Spanish session here rather quickly, so I'm not really sure if I'm gonna just stay logged on or how this works.
Yes, thank you very much, Sergio. So yeah, we will stay logged in here, and then a couple minutes we'll begin transitioning. So having our current families log out, unless they'd like to stay for the Spanish session, if that, they wanted to, if they're able to access it and hear it and take something from it in that second language. Otherwise, we will be wrapping up the English session, and then have our Spanish speaking attendees logging in shortly. I did just want to say that I did copy the link to the resources, so I'll share that out with our families when I send a follow-up email and or the recording, which we were also recording. Encourage our parents in attendance here tonight to, as Sergio mentioned, begin networking, connecting with other families at the school as early as tomorrow morning. Say, hey, I attended this session last night. This is what the topic was. So we will be sharing this information out so that anyone who wasn't able to attend tonight can benefit from it.
Yeah, 100%. Like I feel like many times, like we'll go to a good session, right, and we keep it to ourselves. I tell my students, like, because I work for an Upward Bound program where we don't have, I can't serve everybody at that school, right? But I do tell my students, it's like I'm giving you an opportunity, like we're giving you some incredible resources, some great information, like pay it forward, right? Share it with a friend, like help a friend, like because we can't serve everybody, but there are many other students who could be benefiting from the information. So I give you that challenge today as well as families. If something from this topic, from this conversation stuck with you, pay it forward, share it. It's like it's important for you to be a resource to somebody. You never know who needs it in that moment.
Well, thank you very much again, Sergio, for joining us
Yeah.
for this first session. Thank you to all parents and families again for logging in with us this evening. And the next couple days, I will send a follow-up email with the recording link, the resources that were shared, and then we're happy to take any questions you may have. Sergio, if parents have questions that I perhaps can't answer, is there a way they can contact you? Or what's the best way to perhaps
So
obtain a little bit more information about that
yeah,
topic?
yeah, that's a great question. So I don't know if I'm allowed to interact directly with the parents. I think it's company policy, but you can definitely after this, Rigo, I can email you directly if you want, and I'll give you there should be a way. I think like I'll reach out to my colleagues at Study Smart Tutors and let them know that hey, there's potentially interest in following up and asking additional questions after the webinar. What are my parameters in connecting with the families? And if they tell me go ahead, then I'll make myself available and just like log on and do a quick follow up if that's something that you guys would want to do on
All
my
right,
time.
thank you. Yep. All right. Well, thank you again. Appreciate your time. So once again, families, we will be transitioning into the Spanish webinar. So at this point, again, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll begin in just a few short minutes for Espanol. Thank you.